Hello, I'm Laura Kasbar, and when my twins were 3 years old, they were diagnosed with autism. With intensive therapy, my daughter began to speak, but my son wasn't getting it. After months of therapy, he still didn't know one single word. He was 3.5 years old with the language of a 10-month-old baby. My quest to learn how to reach my son led me to adults on the spectrum who could explain to me how they perceive the world. From those conversations, I developed the filming method that has become discrete video modeling, or DVM. The first day my son saw these videos, he said his first word. In a few weeks, he was learning 30 words a week. This is a graph of Max's language before we started Gemiini. Here is the language acceleration of a typical child, and this was Max. At the rate he was going, he would be lucky to have language ability of a 2-year-old when he was 10. Now, this is what happened when we started using Gemiini. You can see that Max's language took off. He crossed the average mean when he was 7 and crossed the gifted line when he was 14. Here's a video of Max just before we started DVM, and then again a few weeks later.
What are you doing, Max? Hey, Max! Max! Say cheese!
Cheese.
Max, how old are you?
3.
What's your name?
Max.
What's your last name?
Kiss bar.
Good job. What do you want?
I want house, please.
Okay, go get the house. Here it is.
That video was 14 years ago, and you may be wondering how the story ends. The twins entered college at 16 and are both very verbal. They attend youth legislature events and participate in public speaking. They still need a little more support than others may need in some classes, but for the most part, they are pretty independent. Now, autism is a lifelong disorder, but that isn't going to stop them from having a happy, independent life like anyone else. Our first group trial was a pilot study in a classroom with 8 children with autism. 6 of the children were low verbal and 2 were nonverbal despite 3 years of therapy. These 2 children had no language at all, not even verbal imitation of sounds. The trial was started in September, and by January, all children had improved greatly, and the 2 nonverbal children were speaking in complete sentences. This gave me the proof I needed that my little Max was not just an outlier, but that I had something that could work with most kids. We have since had trials with the Los Angeles County School District at Inglewood, California, Gonzaga University, the Eden Center at Princeton, Spokane Public Schools, and internationally in South Africa. Just like little Max, Gemiini has shown to be successful even at reaching people who have not previously responded to other sorts of therapy. Our trials have shown us that Gemiini isn't just for autism. Children with Down syndrome and language delay have done even better. We've also used Gemiini to teach reading to young children and to students who have fallen behind their peers. Children go from the bottom of the class in reading to the top of the class in just a few months using the program. Although we have a strong research base with language learning, we are just beginning studies with the reading program. Initial results are very encouraging and will keep you updated with published studies. In our research, we've learned that Gemiini works with about 90% of people with language disorders and about 70% of the most severely affected. We also learned that if Gemiini isn't used correctly, you may not see any improvement at all. And this is why. Half the children love Gemiini and want to watch it all the time. Some children are ambivalent, and about 30% actually do not like the videos at all. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it is this. Kids don't have to like Gemiini for it to work. My own son hated the videos, but he learned everything from them for years. Why do some kids hate Gemiini? Well, people with autism generally like to retreat into their own world. Gemiini sort of forces the viewer to engage in our world by making them pay attention to information which is crucial to language. Other kinds of videos, like cartoons, can actually encourage children to retreat. For about 30% of kids, the forced attention of Gemiini can be uncomfortable, and there is the danger of developing aversion to it. To counter this aversion, we suggest that you begin using Gemiini home sessions with your child when your child's eating. So 3 times a day, twice through at each meal. If they like them, you can expand the time. To accelerate learning, it is best to have your child watch in groups. For little kids, if you can get the school to use the videos for the entire class, that is optimal. But if not, you can do this simple trick. Place the computer monitor or laptop at the head of the table while the family is eating dinner. Have everyone at the table copy the words and animal sounds along with the video. This will allow your child to actually participate in family time and encourage joint attention, which is shown to be the #1 early indicator of eventual language fluency. Over time, the sessions will move from single word labels to short phrases. Once your child starts to independently engage with family conversation, you can remove the computer. Don't stay on any one video session for longer than a week. Even if it looks like your child isn't getting it, believe me, he's getting it, and you just run the risk of boring him to death. You can also watch the Day in the Life of a Gemini Child video for more ideas on viewing strategies. We have had some children respond amazingly the first week of Gemini, but others, especially nonverbal children, have taken months to respond. As a parent of kids with special needs myself, I suggest that you try Gemini for 6 months before giving up. Also, get the school and therapist involved as much as possible. It's always best to be used in conjunction with a robust therapy program, but considering the scarcity of services in some areas, you may not have that luxury. Don't worry, Gemini can be used alone if need be. If you are fortunate to have one-to-one therapy for your child, the addition of Gemini has been shown to increase language substantially. A typical hour of therapy looks something like this, with most of the time being spent on input, usually using flashcards, data recording, prep time, and review. Only about 15% of the time is spent on generalization or getting the child to actually use his language, which is the most important piece. With Gemini, the input of the information, prep time, and review can be offloaded to the computer and can be done at home for as long as you want. This leaves the majority of the live therapy session open for generalization and getting the child to use his newly acquired language. It makes each therapy session 4 times as effective. If your child has less than 30 words of meaningful speech, then click on Quick Start Language, which will get you started immediately. If he needs a more customized approach, then watch the Create New Session video to see how to create customized curriculum from our pre-filmed video library of over 10,000 words. It literally takes less than 2 minutes to create 10 hours of effective therapy time. We love to hear how your children are doing with Gemini, so please send us updates and any suggestions for new content that you may need. Thank you from myself and the Gemini team.